about time you tune in. We speak life for reality. Our thoughts are not fiction. No one gets an opinion on the topics that we mention with the Holy Ghost boldness. God's in control of this. Real talk with real men for purpose and focus. Growth to get better. See, man up, we better. To change for the better. The future getting better. True men of God. Leading, going hard. It's time to level up with the Man Up Squad. Now, man up. You got this. M-A-N-U-P. Man up. That man up. M-A-N-U-P. That man up.
Hey, this is Pastor Tony Smith, and this is Man Up, and we're so excited to be here. We just did a show, but we're here with you live, and we want you to share. Come on, take some time to share this and let us know you're on. Pastor Marcus is checking to see who's on the air. If he's not checking, he's acting like he is, and I appreciate that enough. That's enough for me. But we want to share. Karan is in the room. We thank God for him. Amen. That means I don't know if he still got his job, but he's in the room. We thank God for him as well. We want to talk about what was the topic we said going to sharing.
Wise men silent.
Wise men silent. Expressing. What is the challenge we have in expressing ourselves, or do we have a problem expressing ourselves? And do we have a problem that when we express ourselves, to be heard? To be heard. It's amazing that the number one man on the totem pole can be the last man in line.
Wow.
The family has the ability to silence a man because he's not being heard, and he's not being respected. The response is not being respected. So how y'all feel about that? Have you ever been in a position in a relationship where your energy, your position was not being heard? If you've never been there, God bless y'all. I've been there many times in my relationship with my son's mother, and as a family, my relationship with my parents, my relationship with my anything I had a partnership with, where I felt that my passion and my truth was not being heard, and I became silent, almost like Silence of the Lambs. That was a crazy movie, but we'll work on it. Pastor Marcus, go ahead.
So I've been there, but it was my fault. So because I was trying to dilute situations, and because I was aware of how I did not want to present myself in a relationship, I would not say stuff sometimes. I would let stuff slide, sweep it under the rug. And then when I did say something, I had already created a monster. So because I let it go on for so long, now that I'm saying something about it, it seems like it's me and not you. Because I accepted it for so long that now that I'm saying something about it, it seemed like I'm switching up and I'm being funny acting, or that I changed when in reality I didn't like it from the beginning, but I was giving passes and didn't address it.
Or what you do when you don't like it and you couldn't address it because they hid it until it came up, and now you express yourself, and it's like, well, it's done. I did a counseling session with someone one time, and they agreed before they got married that the dog, they wasn't going to bring the dog into the marriage. So it was a dog situation. Guy had allergy, whatever case may be. And we were talking on the phone, and he said, well, see, just like you said you wasn't going to bring the dog, and the dog been here for 3 months. And the lady said, well, the dog here now. He was silenced. And I was silenced too. The dog here, she said, yeah, I said, but the dog here now. Like he ain't going, the dog not going anywhere. There are some things that silence you because it doesn't matter what you say, it ain't gonna change it. And that's not fair if you are something that has an authority in the relationship. That's not fair. And when you feel like your authority is being taken from you, you become silent. Chris,
I think became silence when I feel like I'm not being heard, when I'm having a conversation with you. We sat down and it's like you didn't hear me. So now when you ask me something now, I don't really have anything to say because you didn't hear me when I talked to you the last time.
I remember you doing me like that one time.
I don't remember that fast, but
Just go ahead and apologize. Hey, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
Anybody else? That's good though. That's good.
I remember when I was a kid, my grandfather down south, I used to go down there for 2 weeks every summer. And I used to just sit and listen. And he would preach and he would yell, just preach and yell. And I asked him one day, I built
He was a
up
pastor.
No, he wasn't. He was
Just making noise.
he was a log truck driver.
Okay.
And I built up enough courage one day to ask him, like, Granddad, why you always yelling and preaching? You know, and he told me this, and I never forget it. He said, sometimes a man got to roar like a lion in his own home to be heard. And I didn't quite understand that, but to get his point across, he had this aggressive approach. So in my marriage and then with my children, I learned that I don't have to be as aggressive. I can learn to kind of, just have a gentle ear to listen sometimes.
But you say you don't have to be as aggressive, but you still have to be aggressive?
Yeah, I'm trying not to be overly aggressive because
Okay.
it just seemed like he kind of overdid it, sometimes. So.
Sometimes I, think that, at times silence is good because the silence, you're still making a statement because you're not saying anything. And I'll give an example, one time a special person in my life used to get high. So when they got high, I would always stop to see them when I saw them walking down the street because they were very, very valuable to me. It still is to this day, very, very valuable to me. But when they weren't hearing, because I'm not bigger than the addiction. My conversation is not greater, and at that time, I said, you know what? God got to fix it because I can't keep stepping in. So guess what? I had to be quiet and not stop. That's when I say sometimes silence is good. I had to drive past it with tears in my eyes because I know that this is a dealing that him and God have to fix. And gratefully, it was right because today they're all fixed up. But being silent, not trying to step in and be their God, but let God do what God needed to do.
And that's a total different subject. That's good. That's good, but it's totally what we're talking about now. We're talking about when your voice should be heard,
Okay.
or needed to be heard, but you became silent, or the energy didn't permit you to speak out. Means that you have the position of authority, you have the position of the decision making, but it was shut down. How do y'all feel about that? How do y'all get to the place where you like, okay, good, better example. You have a lot to say, but it's so consistent that you're not being identified. You say, do whatever y'all say. Do whatever you say. Wherever you want to go. Don't matter. What makes you get to that place?
I'm not going to do that, sir. I'm not going to hurt myself saying, y'all do what y'all want to do, and I don't want to do it. I ain't that man. I ain't doing it.
You hear, wifey? You hear what he said? Somebody over here.
I think what happens, and me and Tarsha have had this conversation before. I think every living piece of flesh wants to be heard.
That's
and
good.
And when think about this is like if I cover your mouth where you can't talk, it's like suffocating them. So it's like when that happens, it people just, I mean, especially in relationships, people just gotta understand it's like I can't, if you're silent, like you can hold your breath, you can hold your breath for me, but you can only hold your breath for so long. And something in your relationship is gonna die if that person just keeps being silent. So I just and just from personal experience, it's like even when it was talking about from being a kid, it's like, everybody wants to be heard, and it's like it's just life.
I got something on that. So when I deal with my boys, right, and if I'm coming off harsh and I'm dishing out punishment and stuff like that, I always at the end of it, I always give them the opportunity to be heard, because they always got this mean look on their face, or they look to shove. I was like, hey, we men here, we talking. If you have something to say back to me, just say it. This is that time where if you think that your punishment doesn't fit the crime that you did, you got all the right in the world to say that right now. I said, and I'll listen. Doesn't mean I have to agree with you, but I will listen because you have that right. If you think that you're being treated wrong or impartial, guess what? As a man, speak your mind, but just know you have to deal with the answer.
That's right.
And I always tell them, never be upset or angry at the answer, because that's why you ask the question. You're going to get an answer to it, whether it's a yes or a no or something indifferent, but you get an answer to your question.
It's good. That's good. I like it.
Well, anybody else got anything to say before I say something? Okay, maybe y'all think of something when I come back. I think that no one is silent. I think no one is silent. I think that when you discipline your child and he gets silent, he's not silent. When you have a disagreement with your wife and you become silent over their action, you're not silent. You're just not speaking to them. You're speaking to someone else about it. Because there's got to be a way you have an outlet. It would be good if you had it in the conversation, but no one's silent. No one's silent. You going to work and you're telling your friend about the experience last night. If you come to church, you're telling a deacon or somebody about the experience, whatever. If you're unhappy in your marriage, you're telling the secretary. Now, this is the danger. Who you tell does not have to respect who you're talking about.
Right.
So they can use it as a weakness to entice you to them, or they can use it as a strength to bring y'all together. You see what I'm saying? So that's the danger in being silent. It leads you to a place where you find yourself speaking to someone else. No one holds it in. No one. Anybody want to add or disagree with that or agree?
I usually pray when it comes down to that. And I talk to God and I ask to give me wisdom so that I can handle the situation better. If it's something that's going to silence me, then whatever I say is just not going to make a difference, So I ask to get the wisdom so I can understand how to comprehend the situation and how to actually work in the situation.
I think that sometimes, especially with men, you end up silent because who you're talking to, you can't decipher if they are listening to learn or they're listening to respond. Because if they're only listening to respond, then they're not looking to understand what you're saying. They're looking to pick apart what you're saying to rebuttal and to respond to it. But if they're listening to learn, then you have a voice and you have something to say and share that to you is of value. Well, to them is of value. It's of value to you, but men don't like to waste words. So if I'm saying it and it's not going to be heard, received, then I don't even want to say it, because that's going to then take me to a different place. So I would rather be quiet and not feel disrespected than to share and then feel disrespected because you shut down or rejected what I presented to you.
Well, most people listen to respond. They don't listen for you to be heard. Most people listen, they can't even wait till you finish. And in some cases, I already know what you're going to say. You're going to say, you're like, you didn't let me finish. That way, so most people listen to respond because in value, their response is more valuable than your statement. Most people wants to be heard, but most people listen so you can finish so they can respond. That's good. Because they have a pattern in their head of how it should be. And that's why most people take what you say. Well, I've seen women do it. You did a whole paragraph, and they took that word hate. And so, oh, now you hate me. You're like, no, I said I hate the situation. No, they lost it. They grab words. And I think that we need to we have to learn how to receive before we respond. I think that's a learning method around the board. That's not just us, but down across the board. That's how our children walk away not learning anything because they didn't receive anything. Not that you didn't give anything to receive. See, you were in the classroom. You just didn't learn the lesson.
Right.
You were in the classroom. Everybody got A's but you. Because you didn't come to receive. And maybe that's one of the things we need to do. And y'all, I'm gonna throw this out. Should we come to the conversation not just with our information, but looking for more than what we have?
Absolutely. Because, the first thing is communication is a two-way street. If it's only one way, it's dictation. It's not communication. So oftentimes we come saying we want to have a communication, but we really want dictation. I really want to tell you what I think, how I feel, and walk away because it's over after I said what I said. Instead of us being able to dialogue about it and get to a better understanding. You be able to understand my point of view, me be able to understand your point of view so we can see where we're not clicking on all cylinders. Then we're able to come to resolution. But if all I want is to be heard, all I want to do is just say, hey, this should be this way, blah, 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 and I don't understand why, and then I want to walk away, then we're not going to get much accomplished. Because there is a method to your madness. I just might not agree with it. But if I don't understand it, and I don't take the time to listen to what it is that you're trying to do, then I never will understand it.
I found out from my last marriage that being silent, so you actually become a ticking time bomb to yourself as a man, because you hold so much in. And my new marriage, it's like, I'm not gonna hold nothing in. I'm not gonna be aggressive with it, but I'm gonna let you know how I feel, and for you to have an understanding where I stand at with whatever's going on in the household.
So silence creates unforgiveness.
Ooh, that's good, sir.
Yeah, silence creates unforgiveness because I'm never heard, and I begin to be irritated by you or even hate you. That's why it's so important that when you talk to your children, that you allow them or give them or create some sort of formula that they speak. That way you know where they're coming from. So silence is not. We have done it as grown men, but we have really done it as children. We have been shut silence, and now we're in this generation where we want our children to speak, and they don't even know what to say because they're so afraid that the repercussions will be so severe. Yeah. So they say, I'd rather say nothing because I don't know how I'm coming out of this. Right. Anybody else want to share with that?
Yeah, I'll go. Early in my marriage, when we talk about relationships, early in my marriage, because I was totally not aware, you're in a position of leadership and all of this stuff. And what will happen is we happen to get into an argument for whatever reason, now you walk around the house silent. A silent house between two parties is not a healthy home. So one person is mad and, the other one can still go about their day, and then you scratching your head trying to figure out how this person, because you still, me, at that time, still pissed off. So what happened is growth, actually allows us to be able to, allow me to be able to get better, because it's just not healthy. So after years of going through that, I just said, this is not good. If you're gonna be married, you can't be married and one party is mad, because guess what? You still gotta lay down together, you still gotta eat together, and all of this stuff, huh? Yeah, and at the end of the day, it has to get better. So instead of saying, pointing the blame at the individual, you have to fix you.
Yeah, when a home is silent, like you saying, it's because two parties want each one of them to apologize. Nobody wants to be first to say I'm wrong. Somebody wants someone to apologize. Wants someone to say, to bow. I forgive you. I was wrong. Please forgive me for spending that money. Somebody don't want to take their rightful position of being in the place of, I created this. This one right here I created. And so the other one is waiting for them. Both parties are just warring on who's going to be first to bow. Who's going to be first to bow. And let me tell you something. Every relationship is levels. Everybody's not always on the same field, so you're going to always have a bow position. If I get up here and I'm singing a song, I'm bowing to the musicians, praying that they'll bow to me and play my key. Everything is a share, a trade-off. So even in conversations is a trade-off. Right. And you got to understand that. It's not a dictatorship like you say. It's a trade-off. That means that someone is going to have to take their energy down a little level so the other people can share their role as well. Can you imagine taking a bus trip with Anthony? Anthony's pace is very monotone. In my belief, I think, and you be like, I got 12 more things I want to say. Anthony ain't gonna get a word on the bus trip. He gonna have to raise his hand. He gonna have to raise, can I say something? Because but we understand that energy that he has. He's got good information, so we allow that. But when the first party started rolling, we were like, is he going to say something? He going to finish? We only got 30 minutes. So it's a part. Y'all know I say what y'all thinking and y'all don't say nothing. That's real. Y'all don't try to agree with me. It's a partnership. Like you take Chris, he got a story behind every song. We have taught him, don't sing and just tell the story. So it's a balance, you know. We should not be silent, but we should not have so much energy that when we do speak, we harm.
Right.
We're looking for our communication. The Bible says, come, let us reason together. He didn't say, come, let us agree. We don't always have to agree, but we have to reason.
Right.
We have to reason. And see, when that scripture was written, it was a situation where he knew the answer was true. He knew what he knew was right. But he took what he knew and said, I'm not coming to prove that I'm right. I'm coming to create reason to the right I know.
Yeah.
That's important. So sometimes you got to know you're right, but you got to come and create reason, because in reason, all parties have understanding.
Good.
And the understanding is, okay, you know you was wrong. Now you know why you was wrong and how you will not be wrong again. That comes from reason. Does that make sense?
Yes. Absolutely.
Derek, you want to say something? We got 7 minutes.
Not really, but mine just went blank. But yeah, just like you said, reason. Everybody should come together and be on one accord. When that happens, you have to put your personal feelings aside, because you can't come all with your chest all puffed out talking to your significant other, your kids, or whoever, because like you said, some people don't receive stuff if you give it to them a certain way. Sometimes you got to give kids medicine with a little bit of sugar so they can take it, because if it's bitter, they're only going to do is spit out. So you have to reason.
That sound cute, but that bitter fits sometime with a bad kid. That sound cute. I know we don't talk that, we don't have the old fashioned, but sometimes sitting down on the side of the bed and having a real conversation to a child that keeps repeating it, it's not a good conversation. Because now he have learned your way of reasoning. That's another thing. A child should never master your way of reasoning. Because they're at the age that everything is they want to manipulate everything. They're at the age, that's the age group. You see what I'm saying? Well, it's better to do wrong and hide it than to take time to do right and never have to hide it. Right. So sometimes you have to come with a strong arm. I don't believe in abuse. Well, we're on TV. But I think that there are some structures, especially if the climate of your child, we're talking about children, not your wife. The climate of your child is that they keep repeating it. It means that your knowledge, your discipline, and your structure is not strong enough to train them. So you have to find a different method. You can't keep cutting the same wound for surgery. Yeah. You have to go a different way. If you play a football team and every time y'all make that same play, they catch it, you got to pass it to somebody else. You got to pass it to someone. You got to do something different. Because at the end of the day, you still got to get to the finish line. So that we're obligated to raise our children. Right. Train up. The Bible says train them. We're obligated to train them. They'll raise themselves. They'll get height, tall, and all that. But we're obligated to train. And if the method doesn't work, then we're obligated to take a different method. And I'm going to throw this out here. We got 4 minutes. I'm going to throw this out here. Every child cannot be trained the same way.
Absolutely. Each person has their own identity, and you have to find a way to reach them. And even when we're talking about being silenced, we have to understand that, if something is silenced, then that means it doesn't come out. Anything that does not come out becomes toxic. So you have to get out to make room for something new to be in. You have to use it, or it's is going to deteriorate. So, you know, being silenced, there's some things that you should say, you should get out, you should be able to use. But if you don't, then you will train yourself to just be stuck in that spot, and it'll become toxic.
That's real good, because silent and silent is two different things. Because you can speak being silent, but you can't speak when you're being silent, cut off. So I've spoke many times not saying a word, but my eyes, my gesture, that spoke for me, especially when it comes to discipline among people that you're called to raise up or build.
Right.
I've been dealing with that with my son, my new son, Drake, the training process, having an understanding how the household runs. You know, he lived with his mother for a long period of time. Now you come under our roof together, and then we got to have an understanding with each other. Like when I'm talking to him, he looks to the left or right. I'm like, no, when I'm talking to you, look at me directly, because we having a conversation about whatever the conversation is. The conversation was the other day, you got one phone, but you carrying the other phone around, so what image are you trying to portray? And I asked him, I said, well, just explain to me by the end of the day why you need two phones. And if you can give me a good reason, I don't have no problem with it.
Yeah, I think, especially when you create two families and make it one, everything in that becomes training. Everything has to be retrained. Everything. You can't take, you know, even how you drive on a full tank and they drive on a quarter tank. Everything has to be trained, and those things have to be trained with not with because I said so. You have to be trained with information.
Understand.
With understanding, because if they don't understand it, then now you're dictating to them change. Right. It just can't be, I just didn't have this in my house. You gotta show them that why it was important. This helped your growth. This is better for your growth, and also it might be just better for your frame of mind. That's all of it. Because the things in the house that's irritating you, now we got to talk about what's best for the frame of mind. Because sometimes you're trying to accept something like, you know, every time you come in the bathroom, there's blankets and everything on the floor from them taking the shower. Blanket, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, tiles. Hold on, use no blanket on the floor. Now, for your frame of, now, in a normal situation, they say, well, I was going to come back and get it. But for my frame of, that's okay for you. But for my frame of mind, it's irritating. And because I can't leave this house irritated, we got to talk about how you can get this up as soon as you come out of the shower. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And not be silent and walk out the house. Every time I go in that bathroom, you're not being silent. I tell you, no one's silent. They either speak to others or speak to themselves, but no one's silent. So when you have a joint effort on the job, you got to work in the same environment, sharing the same desk. If you work with your wife on the job, you got to those things got to be trained environments. You can't assume that the way she treats you at home is the way she treats you in corporate America. It's not the same. And you got to know when it changes up. You know, that's when people get messed up. They say, you at church and you're all phony at church, and then you come home. It's the environment. It's the expectations of the environment. Please don't call me phony. I'm just dealing with the expectations of the environment. I'm focused on my position at work, on my position at church, but at home I have no position. Or you made me lose my position, so I become silent. Yes, I got a lot to say at church because they give me obligations. But when I got home, you made me lose my obligations by how y'all react to me, so now I become silent. Our time is up. We got to share this again. We got to do this another show. This is good. God bless you for joining us. We'll see y'all next Sunday. Pentecost Sunday is next Sunday. Please be a part of our services. God bless you. Bye-bye.